Hi, this is John Okoro. Welcome to this week's Auspicious Agile video blog. This week we're going to be taking a look at trends in Agile, DevOps, and in business agility for 2019 and 2020. Plenty's happened over the course of the last year. I think it's been about a year ago since we did our last video on different trends. So we'll take a look at some of the things that are happening and get your thoughts later on below in the comments as well. So let's get into it, where you're going to be talking about some different topics. I did do recently a conference presentation covering the same topic of different trends in Agile, DevOps, business agility, and actually in blockchain, which we'll save for our next video. So let's get into the topics today. And we're going to start with Agile and Enterprise Agile, of course. So the first one, this comes from the version 1 State of Agile survey, or the version 1 CollabNet State of Agile survey. Great source for information on Agile, Agile scaling and trends and tools. And I like to look at that every year. And what you can see here is that, of course, our Scrum is at 2/3 of basically or more of team level Agile use. And this, of course, is stemming in technology, but even more than that, Scrum, of course, is dominant. Kanban is someplace around 13% if we include Scrumban, which is also Scrum. There's not much change here in this area from the survey from the last year. Really, Scrum has been dominant, so not a huge surprise in the Scrum and the team level Agile area. Now let's go over to Enterprise Agile. This is a little more interesting, a little more activity has been happening here. So what do we have? Of course, Scaled Agile Framework, and full disclosure, I do train on this and certify on this method. Scaled Agile Framework is dominant at this point. It's been growing and increasing, and it has about 30% of the overall Agile scaling market at this point in Enterprise Agile. And if you count about the 8% of people that say they have custom internally created methods, a lot of those, you'll hear terms like release train, they've actually been using Scaled Agile in some cases as well. So this is probably actually over 30%. So this is increasing. Now the custom methods we talked about, that is another one, but the next biggest is 16% who said they use Scrum as Scrums. Now, as a reminder, many of you who followed this channel for a while know that, as I mentioned, a Scrum of Scrums is not really enterprise scaling. It is scaling for about 3 to 5 Agile teams. So it's not something that I would consider to be enterprise level. It is down a little bit from last year where it was about 10%. Now, the next one is internally created methods, which is, as we mentioned, down a little bit on the Scrum of Scrums. The internally created methods is down to 8% from 10% last year. Now, we do see disciplined Agile delivery has gone up from 7% reported using it last year. 5% was last year, 7% this year. And also Spotify, which wasn't really listed at all. So we'll give a little question mark here. Spotify is about 5% now, arguably an Agile scaling method. And last year we had large scale Scrum, which is about 5%. It's down to about 3% this year. So a little bit of a downward trend. If we were to analyze and look at this a little bit, it looks like a lot more of the comprehensive type methods like Scaled Agile Framework and Disciplined Agile Delivery seem to be growing in popularity. Overall, of course, Spotify's in there as well from an enterprise agile scaling perspective. Now let's take a look at business agility. From a business agility perspective, of course, again, we're going to talk about Spotify for a moment because you really can't go into an organization that is considering business and organization agility without somebody mentioning Spotify. It's a favorite of consultants. It's a favorite of transformation people. Everybody talks about Spotify squads and guilds and tribes and all the rest. This, of course, was really meant to be for the Spotify company. And even though the white paper, which you can see to the left, does make it popular, it really isn't designed to be a business agility approach for everybody's company. So you really need your own expertise to use it effectively. Let's get into the Business Agility Institute Business Agility State of Business Agility Report, and done with Agility Health. And this is for 2019. So some of the things that we see here is that small companies are more agile than large ones. And of course, I don't think this is a huge surprise. If you're small, you have to be adaptive, you have to move fast, you got to be able to survive in the market. If you're large, you have more money, you can kind of stick to your old processes at least for a while. Maybe you don't feel the need to be as adaptive, although over time you probably will have to be. So not a shock there. Let's go on. Now, when we take a look at the industries, the biggest ones in business agility that are really doing what they call in the survey running or flying, which is really doing quite well, 41% of consulting reported to be at that level. IT, about 26%. and financial services about 7%. Of course, consulting, you got to be adaptive if you're going to be relevant in the market. In IT, technology is really a foundation for Agile. And of course, for financial services and business agility, there's a lot of technology inside of that as well. So we can see about two-thirds of companies have been on their business agility journey for less than 3 years. So this is pretty new for most organizations. They're really INGs, of course, our famous one, but there are not a lot of organizations that are, they've been doing this forever. They understand business agility. This is pretty new. There are some consortiums out there that talk about it, but generally speaking, for companies, it's a new thing. And as a note for Scaled Agile Framework, they are in version 5, which comes out in January 2020, I think officially. They are planning to incorporate much more business agility concepts there, which will be kind of a growing for Scaled Agile, which has really been more at the program level and enterprise agility, not so much outside of technology up until this point. Let's go on. Let's take a look now at DevOps. So in DevOps, we have the first note I want to make before we go into some of the survey results in this area is Forrester, who had some comments in one of their recent surveys. It was about a year or two ago now, but they talk about that really Agile and DevOps work together. And I think this is a really key point in terms of greater frequency of delivery, better alignment, improved functional quality, etc. Agile and DevOps do work together better. So Puppet State of DevOps Survey is what we're going to look at here. Puppet does one of these every year, and good source of information for those who are interested in learning more about DevOps. This is the one for 2019. We find that security, integrating security into DevOps is really key. Now, some people are calling this DevSecOps. Some people, like Puppet here, just call it DevOps. But whatever you want to call it, integrating security is a very key trend in DevOps for this year, especially. And this also helps with compliance and other things as well. 5 stages of DevOps security integration kind of is something that Puppet covers in their survey. And many organizations really, they say, are stuck in the middle, kind of medium DevOps evolution. About 79% say that they're not really low on the scale of DevOps evolution, but also not high. They're kind of stuck in that middle area and hopefully moving past it. But for now, that's where they are. DevOps is being integrated into our scaling framework. So again, here's our Scaled Agile framework. And we can see that DevOps for the last few versions has been a part of Scaled Agile framework, and it's integrated as well as Disciplined Agile and other methods as well for enterprise scaling. So definitely a trend to incorporate DevOps across all these methods. So next time we will be taking a look at continuing to look at trends this time in blockchain for 2019. So join us for that next time. If you enjoy this, please subscribe, like, and share. It really helps out the channel and helps out the blogs. And thank you to everybody who helped us to reach 1,000 subscribers. You can also support on Patreon, Amazon, and with cryptocurrency. And please take a look at the comments. You'll find some of the links to the surveys and also some of the upcoming classes that I'll be teaching here in the ASEAN and Southeast Asia region as well. Thanks to vecteasy.com for some of the images in today's blog. And as always, stay agile, and thanks so much for listening. If you have comments and thoughts, by the way, about the different surveys, please do include those in the comments as well. Thank you so much.